The Tale of Whispering Willows. Once upon a time, in a quaint little village nestled between the emerald valleys and golden meadows, lived a young girl named Liora. Liora was unlike the other children in the village. She had a fascination for stories, especially the kind that involved magic, mysteries, and secret places. Every night, she would dream of going on an adventure, discovering hidden worlds that lay beyond the village's borders. Her grandmother, who lived with Liora and her parents, was her greatest source of inspiration, for she always seemed to have a new story to tell. Stories about magical places, forgotten secrets, and enchanted beings. One evening, after dinner, Liora's grandmother called her close and whispered, "Did I ever tell you the story of the Whispering Willows?" Liora's eyes lit up with curiosity. She shook her head, her dark curls bouncing. "No, Grandma, you haven't! Tell me, please!" Her grandmother smiled knowingly and motioned for her to sit down by the hearth. "The Whispering Willows is a special place, hidden deep within the enchanted woods," she began, her voice full of mystery. "It's a grove of ancient willow trees that have secrets of the world locked inside their whispering leaves. They say if you listen closely enough, you can hear them tell their secrets, but only those with pure hearts can find it." Liora leaned in closer, her heart pounding with excitement. "Has anyone ever found it?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Her grandmother's eyes twinkled. "Ah, that's where the magic lies, my dear. Few have found it, and those who do never quite return the same. But I do know this. Tonight the willows are calling. They're calling someone brave enough to find them." Liora looked towards the window, where the moonlight bathed the village in a soft silver glow. Her heart fluttered at the thought. Could she be the one the willows were calling? If a magical grove of whispering trees called to you, would you follow its call? What secrets do you think you might find? That night, as the village slept under the watchful gaze of the stars, Liora slipped out of her bed, wrapped herself in her warmest cloak, and tiptoed across the creaky wooden floor of her house. She opened the door ever so slightly and stepped outside. The cool breeze of the night greeted her, carrying with it the faint sound of whispers. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. "The willows are calling." Liora took a deep breath and followed the sound. The whispers seemed to guide her, winding through the narrow cobbled streets of the village, across the meadow where the fireflies danced, and finally to the edge of the enchanted woods. The forest loomed ahead, its dark branches swaying gently in the wind. Liora hesitated for a moment, but the whispers grew louder, almost comforting, and her curiosity got the better of her. With a determined step, she entered the woods. The trees seemed to part for her, creating a path bathed in the silvery light of the moon. The deeper she went, the more magical the forest became. Flowers that glowed with an inner light dotted the forest floor, and small ethereal creatures peeked out from behind the trees, their eyes twinkling with curiosity. After what felt like hours of walking, Liora finally came to a clearing. Her breath caught in her throat. There, in the middle of the clearing, stood a grove of the most magnificent willow trees she had ever seen. Their branches hung low, their leaves shimmering in shades of silver and green, and they seemed to move even though there was no wind. It was as if they were alive, whispering secrets to each other in voices so soft they were almost inaudible. "You found it, Liora," a gentle voice spoke, startling her. Liora turned to see a figure standing at the edge of the clearing. It was a boy, about her age, with hair the colour of autumn leaves and eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 stories. He wore clothes that looked as though they were made from leaves and moss, and there was an air of mystery about him. Who are you?" Liora asked, her voice trembling slightly. "My name is Rowan," the boy said with a smile. "I am a guardian of the Whispering Willows. The trees have been waiting for someone like you." Leora's heart pounded in her chest. "Waiting for me? Why?" Rowan stepped closer, his eyes twinkling with mischief and kindness. "Because you have something the willows need. Your courage and your curiosity. The willows have a secret they wish to share, but only with someone who is brave enough to listen." Liora looked at the willows, their branches swaying gently, as if beckoning her closer. She took a step forward, then another, until she was standing beneath the largest of the trees. She closed her eyes and listened. At first, all she could hear was the rustling of the leaves, but slowly the whispers grew louder, forming words, then sentences. The willows spoke of an ancient time, of a world filled with magic and wonder, of a kingdom that had been lost to time. They spoke of a princess who had once wandered into the grove and had hidden her heart within the branches of the willow to protect it from those who sought to steal the magic of the forest. "The lost heart," Rowan said softly, stepping up beside Liora. "The willows wish for you to find it and return it to its rightful place." Liora opened her eyes, her gaze meeting Rowan's. "But where is it? How do I find it?" Rowan smiled, his eyes full of warmth. "You have already taken the first step, Liora. The willows have chosen you. The rest is a journey you must take with your heart." Liora looked back at the grove, her heart swelling with determination. She nodded, a smile spreading across her face. "Then I will find it. I promise." Rowan reached out and took her hand, his touch gentle and reassuring. "Then let us begin. Imagine you were in Leora's shoes, standing beneath the Whispering Willows. What kind of secrets would you hope to hear? Would you be brave enough to help the willows?" Together, they ventured deeper into the grove, the whispers guiding them as they moved. The forest seemed to come alive around them, the flowers glowing brighter, the fireflies swirling in intricate patterns, and the trees swaying as if in rhythm with an ancient melody only they could hear. They came across a small pond, its surface like glass, reflecting the glow of the willows. In the center of the pond was a single, radiant flower, its petals glowing with a soft golden light. "The heart lies within," Rowan whispered, his eyes fixed on the flower. "But only someone pure of heart can retrieve it." Liora took a deep breath, stepping towards the edge of the pond. She knelt down, her reflection staring back at her, and slowly reached out towards the flower. As her fingers brushed against the golden petals, a warmth spread through her, filling her with a sense of peace and love. The flower began to glow brighter, and suddenly the pond rippled, the light spreading across the water until it enveloped the entire clearing. Liora closed her eyes, feeling the magic of the grove wrap around her like a comforting embrace. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer by the pond. She was standing in a grand hall, the walls covered in ivy and flowers, and at the far end of the hall stood a throne made of twisted branches and blooming flowers. On the throne sat a figure, a woman with hair like golden sunlight and eyes that sparkled with kindness and wisdom. "Welcome, Liora," the woman said, her voice echoing through the hall. "I am the lost princess, the keeper of the heart you seek." Liora stepped forward, her eyes wide with awe. "I'm here to return your heart," she said softly, holding out the glowing flower. The princess smiled, her eyes filling with tears. "Thank you, brave one. You have done what no other could. You have restored the magic of the grove, and with it, the heart of the forest." The princess stood, taking the flower from Leora's hands. As she did, the hall around them began to shimmer, the ivy blooming with flowers of every color, the air filling with the scent of wildflowers and the sound of birdsong. The princess placed the flower on her chest, and a light spread from it, enveloping her in a warm, golden glow. "You are a part of this magic now, Liora," the princess said, her voice soft and full of emotion. "Whenever you need the willows, they will be there for you." Liora felt a tear slip down her cheek, her heart swelling with happiness. "Thank you," she whispered. The princess smiled, then waved her hand, and in an instant Liora was back in the grove, standing beside Rowan, the glowing pond before her. "You did it," Rowan said, his voice full of pride. "The willows will never forget your courage." Liora looked around, the grove glowing with a newfound light, the whispers now soft and full of joy. She knew that this was a night she would never forget. As the first light of dawn began to break through the trees, Rowan turned to her, his eyes twinkling. "It's time to go home, Liora, but remember the willows will always be here, waiting for you." Liora nodded, her heart full. She took Rowan's hand, and together they walked back through the forest, the whispers guiding them until they reached the edge of the woods. "Will I see you again?" Liora asked, her voice filled with hope. Rowan smiled, his eyes soft. "Whenever the willows call, I will be here." With one last smile, Rowan turned and disappeared into the forest, leaving Liora standing at the edge of the woods, the first rays of sunlight warming her face. "Do you think you would be brave enough to follow the call of the Whispering Willows? What kind of magic would you hope to find?" And so, the magic of the Whispering Willows lived on, in the grove, in the whispers, and in the heart of a young girl named Liora, who had listened to the call of the willows and found her place among the wonders of the enchanted woods.